Chapter 1. The knife was still warm from his throat when I felt the bond snap. Not the bond I'd spent 3 years building with Marcus. That one shattered 6 months ago when he chose a fertile she-wolf over his barren mate. No, this bond was different, ancient, violent. It tore through my chest like claws through silk, and suddenly I couldn't breathe for a reason that had nothing to do with the blood on my hands. The Crescent Moon Festival screamed around me, wolves dancing, drums pounding, fire painting everything the color of fresh wounds. I stood frozen in the center of it all, a rejected Omega who'd just killed a rogue to protect pups that would never be mine. Then I saw him, taller than any wolf in the square, dark hair falling past brutal shoulders, armor black as a moonless hunt. Power radiated from him in waves that made every wolf within 50 feet lower their eyes without knowing why. His gaze swept across the festival like a predator counting prey. I didn't know his name. I didn't care. Marcus stood 20 feet away, his new mate's hand on his arm, her belly already swelling with the pup I'd never give him. He was smiling, laughing, as if I'd never existed, as if our bond had been nothing but practice for the real thing. Shame hit first, then fury, white-hot and clean. The stranger's ice-blue eyes locked on mine across the crowd. Something in my chest answered, urgent and undeniable. My wolf surged forward, desperate, starving for something I couldn't name. I moved without thinking. 3 steps. My fingers twisted in his armor. I dragged him down and crushed my mouth to his. The world detonated. Heat. Lightning. A pull in my soul like something sleeping for centuries suddenly waking up, screaming, claiming. His hands locked around my waist, possessive, iron-strong, and every wolf in the festival went silent. The music died. The drums stopped. Even the fire seemed to hold its breath. When I finally broke away, gasping, his eyes had shifted. Wolf gold bleeding through human blue. Dangerous. Hungry. Mine. Bold, he murmured, voice like gravel and smoke, for an Omega who doesn't know what she just claimed. I stepped back. My legs shook. The bond between us hummed, alive, demanding, impossible to ignore. I don't want to claim anything, I lied. I wanted him. I jerked my chin toward Marcus, whose face had gone bone white. To see me with someone who doesn't look at me like broken glass. The stranger's mouth curved, not quite a smile. Something darker. Then you chose poorly, little wolf, because I'm the one man in this kingdom who never forgets a claim. Who? Cale Blackthorn. His voice dropped, and I felt it in my bones. Alpha King of the Northern Packs. And you, Omega. His hand rose, thumb brushing my lower lip where his taste still lingered. Just marked yourself as mine in front of 500 witnesses. The square erupted. Whispers, gasps, wolves bowing without meaning to. My blood turned to ice. Alpha King. The most ruthless wolf in living memory. The one who'd held the borders against rogue armies, who'd executed traitors with his bare hands, who hadn't taken a mate in 10 years because no she-wolf had survived his standards. And I'd just kissed him. In public. In front of Marcus. In front of everyone. That was a mistake, I whispered. Was it? His eyes gleamed. Then why can I feel your wolf begging mine to bite? He could. God's help me, he could feel every desperate, treacherous instinct screaming at me to bare my throat and let him sink his teeth in deep. The mate bond, the real one, the kind the old wolves whispered about, roared between us like wildfire. I don't even know you, I said. You will. He leaned close, lips brushing my ear. Starting tomorrow, when you move into the palace, I'll send guards at dawn. I'm not going anywhere with you. You already did. His smile sharpened. You kissed your king, Omega. Now the kingdom will expect you to kneel for him too. He stepped back, and the crowd parted like water. Every wolf who met his gaze bowed. Every she-wolf who looked at me showed teeth. I stood there, trembling. Fury and fear and something far more dangerous coiling in my belly. Marcus appeared at my side, face twisted with rage. "What did you just do?" "Something you taught me," I said quietly. I moved on. "To the Alpha King?" He grabbed my arm, claws pricking skin. "Are you insane? He'll destroy you. You're barren, Sarah. He'll figure that out and throw you to the rogues." A growl cut him off, low, lethal, coming from 20 feet away. Kale stood motionless, but his eyes had gone full wolf. Every dominant in the square felt it, the suffocating weight of an alpha's rage. Marcus released me like I'd burned him. "Touch her again," Kyle said softly, "and I'll remove your hands before your heart stops beating." Marcus fled. His new mate followed, practically dragging him. I stood alone in the center of the festival, the rejected Omega, who'd somehow claimed the most dangerous wolf alive. The bond pulsed between us, hungry and inevitable. Kale's voice echoed in my mind, the first brush of a mate link forming. "Tomorrow, little wolf. We have much to discuss, starting with why your scent tells me you're terrified and aroused." Then he was gone, swallowed by the crowd and the night. I touched my lips. They still burned from his kiss. My wolf paced, restless, aching for something I'd never have, because Kale Blackthorn was the Alpha King, and I was the barren Omega who just painted a target on her own back. The festival continued around me, but I barely heard it. All I could feel was the bond, tightening like a noose, and the certainty that tomorrow, when his guards came for me, everything I'd survived, the rejection, the shame, the carefully rebuilt life, would shatter again. Only this time, there would be no walking away, because wolves like Kale Blackthorn didn't let go of what they claimed, and I'd just given him permission to claim everything. The last thing I heard before I ran was his voice, dark and amused, whispering through the bond, "Run, if you like, Sarah. I do enjoy the chase." Chapter 2. I didn't sleep. How could I when every time I closed my eyes I felt him? The bond hummed under my skin like a second heartbeat, pulling me north toward the palace, toward him. My wolf whined and paced, desperate to answer the call, to submit, to let the Alpha King do whatever he wanted with his new broken toy. I hated her for it. Dawn came too fast. Gray light crept through my cottage windows, touching the few belongings I'd scraped together after Marcus threw me out. A single room, a thin mattress, herbs drying from the ceiling because healing was the only skill a barren Omega had left to offer. 3 sharp knocks rattled my door. My heart seized. I knew before I opened it, could smell them. Royal guards, steel and leather and dominance that made my knees want to buckle. Sarah Ashwood? The lead guard was female, scarred, her eyes harder than stone. "The Alpha King requests your presence." Requests, as if I had a choice. "And if I refuse?" I asked, because I'd lost everything else. I wouldn't lose my pride, too. She smiled, all teeth. "Then he comes himself, and trust me, girl, you don't want that. When Kale Blackthorn wants something, he takes it. The only question is how much blood gets spilled first." I grabbed my cloak, left everything else. If this went badly, when it went badly, I wouldn't be coming back anyway. The journey to the palace took 2 hours on horseback. Every mile, the bond grew stronger, more insistent. My skin felt too tight. My wolf clawed at my control, drunk on proximity to her mate. Mate. The word was poison and honey both. The palace rose from the mountainside like a predator's jaw, black stone towers, silver banners stamped with wolves, walls that had seen centuries of blood. Guards lined the entrance, each one radiating enough power to lead their own pack. Here they were just soldiers. What did that make their king? They led me through corridors that reeked of old violence and older magic, past tapestries showing battles, executions, coronations painted in red. Other she-wolves watched me pass with cold calculation, sizing up the competition, the threat. The barren Omega who'd somehow caught their king's attention. We stopped at massive oak doors carved with scenes of the moon goddess choosing her champions. The guard knocked once. "Enter." His voice, deeper than I remembered. It resonated in my chest, my bones, the hollow space where pups should have been. The doors opened. Cale Blackthorn stood with his back to me, staring out floor-to-ceiling windows at his kingdom. Daylight did nothing to soften him. If anything, it made him more. Broader shoulders, taller frame, scars visible on his neck, his hands, marks of battles won and wolves killed. He wore simple black, no crown, no ceremony. He didn't need them. "Sarah." He didn't turn. "You ran last night." "I walked," I lied. "Your scent says otherwise." Now he turned, and those ice-blue eyes pinned me like a butterfly to a board. Fear. Confusion. An arousal that makes my wolf want to throw you on that desk and finish what you started in the square. Heat flooded my face. "I didn't start anything. I used you to hurt your ex-mate." "Yes." He moved closer, each step deliberate, predatory. "Tell me, little wolf, did it work? Does Marcus lie awake wondering what the Alpha King is doing to his discarded Omega?" The cruelty in his voice should have made me flinch. Instead, it lit something vicious in my chest. "Yes," I whispered. He looked destroyed. Cale's smile was terrible and beautiful. "Good. Let him suffer." He stopped inches away, close enough that I felt his heat, his power, the suffocating weight of an alpha in his prime. "Now let's discuss your options." "I have options? 2. He raised one finger. "You reject the bond here and now. I'll have my seer break it. Painful, possibly fatal, but you'll be free. Marcus wins. You go back to your sad little cottage and spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been." My wolf snarled in rage at the thought. "Or?" My voice barely worked. His second finger rose. "You accept it. Become my mate. Publicly, permanently, irrevocably. Stand at my side as queen of the northern Pax." His eyes gleamed. "And let me use you the way you used me last night." "Use me?" The words tasted like ash. "Don't pretend innocence." He circled me slowly, and I felt like prey being evaluated. "You need protection from Marcus's cruelty, status to reclaim what rejection stole. Proof that you're not the broken thing he named you." He stopped behind me, lips brushing my ear. "And I need a mate before the conclave in 3 months. Or the rival alphas will tear my territory apart, claiming I'm unfit to rule alone." The bond flared hot, angry. "So this is political." "Everything is political when you're king." His hand settled on my hip, possessive, burning through fabric. "But make no mistake, Sarah, the bond is real, fated. The goddess marked you for me, whether we wanted it or not." I turned to face him, reckless. "And if I'm not what you need, if I can't give you heirs?" Something flickered in his eyes, not quite sympathy, not quite understanding. "Marcus told you that you were worthless without a womb." It wasn't a question. "He's wrong. A strong mate, a clever queen, an Omega who survived rejection and came back with teeth." His hand rose, cupping my jaw, forcing me to meet his gaze. "That's worth more than 100 pups from a weak-willed breeder." Lies. They had to be lies, but gods, I wanted them to be true. 3 months, he continued. "Play the role of my chosen mate. Stand beside me at the conclave. Let the other alphas see that I'm stable, bonded, unshakable." His thumb traced my lower lip. "In return, you get everything Marcus denied you. Power, status, revenge. And after the conclave?" His smile turned dark. "If you still want to leave, I'll release you. The bond will remain, but I won't force you to stay in a cage." He leaned closer, voice dropping to gravel. "But I don't think you'll want to leave, little wolf. I think you'll beg me to keep you." Arrogant bastard. He was probably right. "One condition," I said, surprised at my own audacity. "You don't lie to me. Not about the bond, not about what you want, not about what this costs. Agreed. No hesitation. And my condition, you stop flinching every time your wolf wants mine. If we're doing this, we do it right. No half measures. When I bite, you bare your throat. When I call, you answer, in public and in private. The command in his voice made my knees weak, made my wolf purr with dark satisfaction. This was insane, dangerous. Everything about Cale Blackthorn screamed predator, warning, run. But I'd spent 6 months being broken, being pitied, being nothing. Maybe it was time to be dangerous instead. 3 months, I said. Then I decide. His eyes flashed gold. Victory. 3 months. He pulled me close, one hand fisting in my hair, the other splayed possessively across my lower back. The bond roared to life between us, hungry and violent and right. Seal it, he ordered. Kiss your king, Omega. Make it real. I rose on my toes and claimed his mouth. This kiss wasn't for show, wasn't for Marcus. This was for us, for the bond screaming in our blood, for the dangerous game we'd just agreed to play. He kissed back like conquest, like ownership, like he'd been starving for this, and finally had permission to devour. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. His eyes were pure wolf now, his control fracturing at the edges. 3 months, he repeated, voice rough. Starting now. Welcome to the palace, my queen. But the way he said my queen sounded like a threat, and I realized with cold clarity I hadn't escaped Marcus's cage. I'd just traded it for a bigger one, with a wolf far more dangerous holding the key. Chapter 3. The palace wanted me to know I didn't belong. Cale's beta, a scarred wolf named Riker with eyes like frozen amber, escorted me through corridors where she-wolves in silk gowns watched me pass, their stares carved into my skin, calculating, hostile, hungry. They're wondering which one of them you replaced, Riker said, voice flat. The king hasn't brought a woman to the palace in 3 years. You must be special. The way he said special sounded like an insult. Or cursed, I muttered. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. In this place? Same thing. He left me at a suite of rooms bigger than my entire cottage. Silk curtains, a bed large enough for a small pack, windows overlooking mountains that scraped the sky. Beautiful, cold, a gilded prison. I was still staring when the door opened behind me. You'll need proper clothes. A woman entered without knocking. Silver hair, sharp features, authority radiating from every line of her body. The seamstress will be here within the hour. Tonight you'll dine with the king and his council. They'll be evaluating you. And you are? Mira, the king's advisor. Her eyes traveled over my worn dress, my scuffed boots, the herbs still clinging to my cloak. The one who'll teach you how to survive this court before it eats you alive. I didn't ask for your help. No, but you'll take it anyway. She moved closer, dropping her voice. Listen carefully, Omega. There are she-wolves in this palace who've spent years angling for the king's attention. You appeared out of nowhere and claimed him in one night. They will destroy you if given the chance. Let them try, I said with more confidence than I felt. Mira's expression shifted. Respect, maybe, or pity. The king chose well. You have teeth. She headed for the door, paused. But teeth won't save you from poison in your wine or a blade in the dark. Trust no one, especially the ones who smile. She left me alone with that comfort. The seamstress arrived with an army of assistants, measuring, pinning, draping fabrics in deep emerald and midnight blue, colors that would mark me as the king's, his property, his queen. I caught my reflection in the mirror. A stranger stared back. Still me, but sharper somehow. More dangerous, or maybe just more desperate. By evening, I barely recognized myself. The gown clung to curves I'd forgotten I had, the neckline low enough to show the unmarked skin of my throat. where a mating bite should be, where every wolf who saw me would know, not yet claimed, not fully his. Riker returned to escort me. His eyes widened fractionally. The council won't know what hit them. Is that a compliment? It's a warning. He offered his arm. The king's enemies will be at that table. They'll look for any weakness, any crack. Don't give them one. The dining hall was brutal in its elegance. A table carved from black wood, chairs like thrones, chandeliers dripping crystal and cold light. Wolves in formal dress lined both sides, alphas from allied packs, visiting dignitaries, council members whose eyes gleamed with ambition, and at the head of the table, Kyle. He rose when I entered. Every other wolf followed, a wave of reluctant respect. His gaze traveled over me slowly, possessively, and I felt it like a physical touch. The bond thrummed with approval. "My mate," he announced, voice carrying to every corner. "Sarah Ashwood. You will show her the respect you show me." He pulled out the chair at his right hand, the queen's seat. I moved through the stairs and the suffocating dominance, forcing my legs steady. Sat where he indicated. His hand settled on my shoulder, brief, claiming, before he took his own seat. Dinner began with polite conversation that felt like circling predators. Trade routes, border disputes, pack alliances. I stayed quiet, listening, learning who smiled too much and who watched Kale like they were counting his breaths. Then a she-wolf across the table leaned forward, blonde, beautiful, dripping with confidence. "Tell us, Sarah, how did a simple omega catch our king's eye? It must be quite the story." "Trap," I smelled it instantly. "I kissed him," I said simply. "He seemed to enjoy it." Laughter rippled down the table. Kale's hand found mine under the table, squeezed once. Approval. The she-wolf's smile thinned. How bold. Though I suppose when one has so little to lose, boldness comes easily. "Liana." Kale's voice dropped to glacial. "Jealousy doesn't suit you." "I'm not jealous, my king." But her eyes said otherwise. "Simply curious about your choice. After all, we've heard certain rumors about your new mate, about her previous bond, about why it ended." The table went silent. My chest tightened. Here it was, the wound they'd used to bleed me. "You mean that I'm barren?" I met her stare head-on, refusing to flinch. "Yes, my former mate rejected me when he learned I couldn't give him pups. Is that what you wanted to hear?" Shock rippled through the room. Saying it out loud, owning it, wasn't what they'd expected. Liana recovered quickly. "And yet our king, who needs heirs to secure his line, chose you anyway. How unusual." "Enough." Kale's power exploded outward, pressing down on every wolf present. Liana gasped, bowing her head, submission forced from her bones. "You question my choice, my mate, my queen." His hand tightened on mine. "The bond is fated. The goddess chose Sarah for me. If you have objections, take them up with her." Silence, heavy, dangerous. Then an older alpha at the far end spoke, voice careful. "We mean no disrespect, my king, but the conclave is in 3 months. The other alphas will ask questions about heirs, about the strength of your line." "Let them ask." Kale's voice was steel. "My mate is strong where it matters, in mind, in will, in the ability to stand beside a king and not crumble under the weight. That's worth more than a womb that breeds weak pups from a weaker bond." My throat tightened. He'd said it, in front of everyone, defending me, claiming me. It felt like armor and shackles both. The dinner continued, but the damage was done. Lines were drawn. Liana and her allies now knew exactly where to strike, and I knew that every day in this palace would be a battle. Later, after the council dispersed and the wolves slithered back to their dens, Kyle walked me back to my chambers. The corridors were dark, lit only by torches that cast our shadows long and strange. "You handled yourself well," he said. "I owned my weakness before they could use it against me." "That's not weakness." He stopped outside my door, turning to face me. Marcus convinced you it was. He was wrong. Was he? The words escaped before I could stop them. You need heirs, Kyle. The council's right. What happens when the other alphas challenge your fitness because your queen can't breed? His jaw clenched. Then I'll rip their throats out and find new alphas. You can't kill everyone who questions this. Watch me. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. You think I didn't know what I was claiming? The moment the bond snapped, I felt everything. Your pain, your shame, your fury. I chose you anyway, not despite your so-called flaw, because of everything you survived that should have broken you but didn't. Gods. The way he looked at me, like I was something precious and dangerous both. In 3 months, I started, you'll stay. His certainty was maddening, because by then you'll understand what I already know. What's that? He leaned close, lips brushing my ear. That you were made for this, for me, for a crown that requires a queen with scars and teeth. His breath ghosted across my skin. Now go inside, little wolf. Before I forget, we're supposed to be taking this slowly. The bond flared hot between us, demanding, insistent. My wolf whined, wanting him to follow, to claim, to bite. I forced myself through the door, closed it between us, leaned against it, heart hammering, skin on fire. 3 months suddenly felt like an eternity, and no time at all. Because Cale Blackthorn was right about one thing. I was changing. The Omega who'd been rejected and broken was dying. And something far more dangerous was taking her place. Something that wanted the crown, and the king who came with it. Chapter 4. The attempt on my life came on the 7th night. I woke to wrongness, a scent that didn't belong, movement in shadows where there should be stillness, training from years of surviving as a rejected Omega kicked in. I rolled left as the blade sliced through my pillow, feathers exploding like snow. The assassin was fast, female, her scent buried under wolfsbane to hide identity. She struck again. I caught her wrist, twisted, heard bone crack. She didn't scream, professional then, sent by someone with resources and patience. We crashed into furniture, all claws and teeth and desperation. She was stronger, better trained, but I'd spent 6 months fighting to survive while she'd spent years fighting for coin. I fought dirty. Grabbed a silver letter opener from the desk and drove it through her shoulder. She howled, stumbling back. I lunged for the door. She caught my ankle, dragged me down. The knife rose, aimed for my heart. The door exploded inward. Cale stood in the doorway, and he wasn't human anymore. Eyes pure gold, claws extended, power radiating in waves that made the air thick and hard to breathe. Behind him, Riker and 3 guards, all shifted halfway, all ready to kill. The assassin knew she was dead. She smiled anyway. The Baron Queen won't survive the conclave. This was mercy. Cale's hand closed around her throat, lifting her off her feet. Who sent you? Not a question. A command laced with alpha dominance so strong I felt it in my bones, and I wasn't even the target. The assassin choked, fought, tried to resist, failed. The words ripped from her throat against her will. Lyanna and the Eastern Alliance. They don't want a weak queen beside their king. Cale's claws punctured skin. Weak? Please. Blood bubbled on her lips. You came into my home, attacked my mate in my own palace. His voice dropped to something inhuman. There is no mercy for that. He ripped her throat out. She dropped, lifeless, blood pooling on my floor. Kyle stood over the body, chest heaving, still more wolf than man. Then his eyes found mine. The gold faded. Humanity returned, crashing back with visible effort. Sarah. He crossed to me in 2 strides, hands running over my arms, my face checking for wounds. Are you hurt? I'm fine. She didn't. My voice cracked. The adrenaline was leaving, taking my strength with it. I handled it. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You shouldn't have to handle assassins in your own bed." Rage vibrated through him. "This is my fault. I brought you here, painted a target on your back. Stop." I grabbed his wrists. "I chose this. I knew it was dangerous. Not like this." His forehead pressed to mine, and I felt him shaking. Fear, I realized. The Alpha King was afraid. If I'd been 1 minute later... But you weren't. I held him tighter, trying to anchor both of us. "How did you know?" "The bond." His voice roughed. "I felt your terror, like a knife in my chest. I've never run so fast in my life." The bond. It had saved me. Called him when I needed him most. Maybe it wasn't just a chain. Maybe it was a lifeline. Riker cleared his throat. "My king. Lyanna has fled the palace. The Eastern Wolves left with her. They knew we'd discover their involvement." Kale straightened, and the king returned, cold and lethal. "Send word to the Eastern Alpha. His wolves conspired to murder my mate. He has 3 days to deliver Lyanna to me in chains, or I consider it an act of war." "War?" I breathed. "War," he confirmed. "They tried to kill you, Sarah. That's not politics. That's a declaration." His hand found mine, fingers lacing tight. "And they will learn what happens when someone threatens what's mine." The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it lit something fierce and warm in my chest. The guards removed the body. Mira arrived with healers, checking me over despite my protests. Riker stationed wolves outside my door. 6 of them, hand-picked, loyal unto death. But Kale didn't leave. He stood at the window, staring at the mountains, tension radiating from every line of his body, still wearing sleep clothes, feet bare, hair loose around his shoulders, more man than king in this moment, more mine than the realms. "You don't have to stay," I said quietly. "I'm not leaving you alone." "Kale, they tried to kill you." He whirled, and the anguish in his eyes stole my breath. "While you slept in my palace under my protection, they sent an assassin to butcher you like you were nothing, like you didn't matter. I'm alive." "Barely." He crossed to me, dropping to his knees beside where I sat on the bed. "Do you understand what that did to me? Feeling your fear through the bond, running through these halls not knowing if I'd find you alive or..." His voice broke. "I can't lose you, Sarah. I know we're supposed to be pretending, playing roles, keeping distance. But I can't. Not anymore." My heart hammered against my ribs. "What are you saying?" "That this stopped being fake the moment the bond snapped." His hands framed my face, reverent and desperate both. "That I was dead inside before you. Going through motions, being what everyone needed and feeling nothing. Then you kissed me and I woke up." His thumb traced my lower lip. "I'm not pretending anymore. I don't want 3 months. I want forever." "Kyle." Tears burned my eyes. "I can't give you what you need. The Council, the Alphas, they're right. They're fools." He shifted closer, voice turning fierce. "You think I care about blood heirs when I have you? A mate who fights assassins alone and wins? Who stands before hostile councils and refuses to bow? Who survived rejection and came back stronger?" His forehead touched mine. "You're the strongest wolf I've ever met, Sarah, and I am completely, irrevocably yours." The bond exploded between us, no longer a whisper but a roar. I felt his soul pressing against mine, demanding entry, begging permission. "I'm terrified," I whispered. "So am I." His breath ghosted across my lips. "Terrified I'm not enough for you, that I'll fail you the way Marcus did, that you'll wake up one day and realize you settled for a king when you deserved a mate who puts you first. You already put me first." The truth hit me like lightning. You just declared potential war for me. And I'd do it again. His certainty was absolute, every time, without hesitation. I kissed him then, pouring everything into it, fear and gratitude, and the terrifying realization that I was falling for this impossible, dangerous, beautiful wolf who'd somehow seen past every wound Marcus carved into me. He kissed back like drowning, like salvation, like I was the air he needed to breathe. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. The kiss deepening into something claiming and raw. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes had gone gold again. "Mark me," I heard myself say. "Please. I can't survive another attempt wondering if the bond is strong enough to call you, make it permanent." "Sarah." Warning threaded his voice. "If I bite you, there's no going back. The bond becomes complete. You'll be mine in every way that matters." "I know." My hand pressed over his heart, feeling it thunder. "And you'll be mine. Equal claim, equal bond. Isn't that what mates are supposed to be?" Something fierce and wild flared in his eyes. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He moved like lightning. One moment we were kneeling, the next he had me on my back, his body covering mine, careful despite the hunger vibrating through him. His nose traced my throat, finding the perfect spot where neck met shoulder. "This will hurt," he warned. "Good." I tilted my head, baring my throat in complete submission. "Let them see that I chose you, that we chose each other." His fangs sank deep, pain, sharp, bright, burning. Then pleasure, crashing through me in waves as the bond snapped fully into place. I felt him, everything. His fear when he'd thought I was dying, his rage at the wolves who dared threaten me, his love, vast and terrifying and absolutely certain. He loved me. Completely, the way Marcus never had. When he pulled back, blood on his lips, his eyes were molten gold. "Mine." "Yours," I agreed. Then, before he could move, I struck. My teeth found his throat, biting down with every ounce of strength I had, claiming him back, omega to alpha, mate to mate. He groaned, low and primal, hands fisting in the sheets beside my head. I felt his shock, his pleasure, his absolute surrender to this impossible, wonderful thing between us. When I released him, we lay tangled together, both marked, both bleeding, both completely and irrevocably bonded. "No more pretending," he murmured against my hair. "No more pretending," I echoed. Outside, dawn broke over the mountains. Somewhere, Liana was running. The Eastern Alphas were preparing for consequences. The conclave loomed closer, full of wolves who'd challenge our bond, our fitness, our right to rule together. But none of that mattered right now, because I was no longer the broken omega that Marcus had thrown away. I was Sarah Blackthorne, mate to the Alpha King, and anyone who tried to tear us apart would learn exactly how sharp a rejected wolf's teeth could be. Chapter 5. The conclave arrived like a storm, 300 alphas from every territory, their mates, their entourages, all descending on the palace with judgment in their eyes and challenges on their tongues. I stood beside Kyle at the entrance, wearing a gown the color of midnight and silver that marked me as his queen. The mating bite on my throat was visible, deliberate, a brand that told every wolf who looked. Claimed, chosen, permanent. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others stared with barely concealed hostility. And there, near the back of the procession, was Marcus. His new mate clung to his arm, belly swollen with the pup I'd never given him. He looked older, harder, diminished somehow. When his eyes met mine, I saw it. Regret, longing, the devastating realization that he'd thrown away something irreplaceable. I smiled, sharp, victorious. Kale's hand found mine, squeezing once. Through the bond, I felt his satisfaction, his pride, his absolute certainty that I belonged exactly where I stood. "Let them come," he murmured. "Let them see what a real queen looks like." The conclave began with ceremony, old rituals, blood oaths, alliances renewed, and grievances aired, boring politics that made my teeth ache. But I stood tall, smiled when required, and met every challenge with the lesson Mira had drilled into me. Never let them see you break. Then came the challenges. The Eastern Alpha stood first, flanked by his wolves, eyes cold. I questioned the king's choice of mate, an Omega, barren, with no bloodline worth noting. How can she strengthen our alliance when she brings nothing to the table? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Kale's power exploded outward, silencing them instantly. You question my mate? My fated bond? Given by the goddess herself? His voice was death promised. Careful, Aldrich. Your wolves already tried to murder their queen. Would you like to join them in execution? Aldrich paled. He hadn't expected Kale to be so direct, so brutal. Lyanna acted without my knowledge. Lyanna fled to your territory. You harbored her for 3 weeks before delivering her corpse to my border. Kale's smile was terrible. Don't insult me with lies. Another alpha rose, Western territory, old blood, traditional to the bone. Even if the bond is fated, a king needs heirs. How will your line continue? How will... Adoption. I spoke before Kale could, my voice carrying clear and strong. Every eye turned to me. There are pups born every day to wolves who can't care for them, orphans from rogue attacks, children who need homes, protection, a pack to belong to. I lifted my chin. I may not birth heirs, but I can raise them, love them, teach them what it means to be strong, not because of blood, but because of choice. Silence. Heavy. Uncertain. Then a female alpha stood. Southern territory. Scarred and powerful. I was raised by a wolf who didn't birth me, she said. My blood mother died in battle. The woman who took me in, trained me, made me alpha. She gave me everything that mattered. Blood is only one way to make a pack. Her eyes met mine. I support the queen. Another stood, then another. Not all of them, but enough. Wolves who'd been adopted themselves, or who'd taken in orphans, or who simply understood that strength came in forms beyond breeding. Marcus stood abruptly. This is insane. You can't build a dynasty on charity cases and adopted strays. Sit down, Marcus. Kale's voice dropped to Arctic. Before I remind this conclave why you're no longer bonded to my mate. Marcus's face went red. You don't know what she is. How broken. I know exactly what she is. Kale moved to stand behind me, hands on my shoulders, presenting us as one united front. Sarah survived your cruelty and came back stronger. She fought an assassin with her bare hands and won. She stands before 300 alphas who'd love to see her fail, and she doesn't flinch. His grip tightened, proud and possessive. She's the strongest wolf in this room, including me. The bond flared between us, brilliant and unbreakable. Marcus saw it, the complete permanent connection he'd thrown away. Something in him crumbled. You were supposed to be nothing without me, he whispered. I was nothing with you. My voice was steady, final. You taught me I was broken. Kale taught me I was breaking free. Thank you, Marcus, for rejecting me, for showing me exactly what I didn't want. I smiled. Enjoy your pup, I'll enjoy my crown. He left, stumbling, shattered, dismissed. I'd waited 6 months for that moment, expected it to feel like victory. Instead, it just felt like closure. The conclave continued, but the worst had passed. Challenges were raised and answered. Alliances were tested and held. By the time the blood moon rose again, exactly 3 months from the night I'd first kissed Kale in that festival square, the decision was made. The conclave recognized our bond. Accepted me as queen, swore their oaths to Kale, and through him, to me. We'd won. That night, Kale found me in the garden, a small wild space behind the palace where flowers grew untamed and moonlight pooled like silver water. I stood beneath an old oak, breathing in freedom and disbelief both. Your 3 months are up, he said, coming to stand beside me. "The conclave accepted you. I'm no longer under threat of losing my crown." He paused, and I felt his nervousness through the bond. "Which means you've fulfilled your end of the bargain." My heart clenched. "Are you asking me to leave?" "Gods, no." He turned to face me, taking both my hands. "I'm giving you the choice I promised. You can stay as my mate, my queen, permanently. Or," his voice roughened, "if this isn't the life you want, if you'd rather have the cottage and the freedom and the quiet, I'll let you go. The bond will remain, but I won't force you to wear a crown you never asked for." The bond thrummed between us, his love pouring through it like sunlight. He meant it. He'd actually let me walk away if I asked, even though it would destroy him. That's how I knew. "I hated you at first," I said softly. "You were arrogant and commanding and so sure of yourself, it made me want to scream." Pain flashed across his face. "But then I saw you defend villagers in council. I watched you stay beside me after the assassination, terrified and human and real. I felt you love me through a bond I didn't think I deserved." Tears pricked my eyes. "You gave me back everything Marcus stole. My worth, my strength, my belief that I could be more than my wounds." "Sarah, I'm not leaving." I rose on my toes, cupping his face. "I choose you. I choose this. I choose being your mate, your queen, your partner in every way that matters." I smiled through tears. "I choose us." His control shattered. He kissed me like drowning, like salvation, like I was the answer to every question he'd never dared ask. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me impossibly closer, the bond singing with joy and relief and love so vast it made my chest ache. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I love you," he whispered, "completely, eternally, in every lifetime the goddess grants us. I love you too." The words felt like coming home. My impossible, dangerous, beautiful king. He pulled me close, and we stood wrapped in moonlight and each other, two broken wolves who'd somehow found their way to whole. Above us, the blood moon watched, satisfied. The goddess had chosen well, an omega who'd survived rejection, an alpha who'd survived emptiness, two souls carved by pain into something that fit together perfectly, rough edges finding their match, scars teaching strength. We'd face more challenges, more enemies, more wolves who'd question whether a barren queen belonged on a throne. But we'd face them together, bonded, mated, unbreakable. Because some love isn't built on perfection. It's forged in survival, tempered by choice and proven by the willingness to fight for each other when the world demands you break. And we'd already proven we didn't break. We transformed into something far more dangerous than a king alone or an omega rejected, into something legends would whisper about for generations, a love that refused to bow, a bond that chose itself, a queen who wore her scars like armor and stood beside her king, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The festival where we'd first kissed felt like another lifetime. That desperate, broken omega was gone. In her place stood Sarah Blackthorn, queen of the northern packs, mate to the Alpha King, and living proof that the goddess didn't make mistakes. She made warriors, and ours was a love worth going to war for.